There is a moment quiet, almost invisible, when a person pauses mid-thought, when the noise of the day seems to hold its breath, and something deeper than habit pulls their attention toward a single word, a single voice, a single message they were not quite expecting, but somehow already needed. This is that moment. This is not a coincidence. This is not random content surfacing in a random hour. There is a reason these words appeared before those eyes today, in this exact window of time, in this exact season of life. The hand that arranged it is the same hand that formed the mountains and counted the stars by name. And that hand has been reaching quietly, persistently, lovingly toward one specific person, the person reading this right now. Stop, breathe. Do not rush past what is being offered here, because what follows is not information to consume and move on from. It is a message delivered with intention, wrapped in the kind of love that does not expire, does not grow tired, and does not turn away. Before this message ends, something will shift inside, a heaviness will lift, a question will be answered, a door that seemed permanently closed will begin to creak open. Stay. This moment was prepared long before today arrived. There are days when a person wakes up already exhausted before the first cup of coffee, before the first obligation of the morning, before the world has had a chance to demand anything. The tiredness is not physical. It is the kind that lives in the chest, the kind that comes from carrying too much for too long without being certain that anyone notices the weight. On those days, the temptation is to move faster, to fill every hour with noise and motion, to outrun the stillness, because the stillness asks questions that feel too large to answer. But there is one who does not want that person to outrun anything today. There is one who reached across every distraction, every algorithm, every competing voice, and stopped the scroll in this exact place, not because of what lies ahead on the screen, but because of what lies ahead in that person's life. The word that has been spoken over this moment is not coincidence. The word is appointment. Long before today began, before the week started, before the worry arrived that has been sitting like a stone in the stomach, this moment was marked. This conversation was scheduled. The message was prepared. I called you here, the Father says, not with the tone of someone who demands attendance, but with the voice of someone who has been waiting with open arms. There is something that needs to be heard, something that the noise of the world has been drowning out, and it will not wait any longer. What is about to unfold in the next several minutes has the power to reframe everything, not because the circumstances will instantly change, but because the perspective will. And perspective is everything. When a person sees their situation through the eyes of the one who holds it, everything looks different. The mountain is still there, but it no longer looks unmovable. The night is still dark, but the morning is suddenly visible on the other side. Do not leave before the message is complete. There is a reason to stay, and that reason is about to become clear. Right now, in the room where this person sits, or stands, or lies quietly, there is a presence that most human eyes cannot see, but that every human soul can feel when it finally goes still enough to notice. It is not a distant presence, not something hovering at the edge of the universe, too large and too holy to concern itself with one tired human in one ordinary room. It is here, closer than the air that fills the lungs, closer than the heartbeat that has been faithful since before birth. The Father knows what that room looks like. He knows whether the lights are dim or bright. He knows the pile of papers on the desk that has been quietly producing anxiety. He knows the empty chair across the table that used to hold someone who is no longer there. He knows the sound of that particular silence, the specific texture of the loneliness that settles in when everyone else has gone home or gone to sleep, and the weight of life becomes impossible to share because no one quite seems to understand the full scope of it. He knows the nights, the ones where sleep refuses to come, where the mind begins its inventory of everything that is wrong and everything that is uncertain and everything that might fall apart. The ones where a person stares at the ceiling and whispers a prayer that feels like it dissolves before it reaches anywhere meaningful. He was there in every one of those nights. He heard every word of every prayer, including the ones that came out not as words at all, but as tears, or as silence, or as a quiet groan that carried more grief than language can hold. He was in the room then, and he is in the room now. You are not alone, he says, and this is not a comfort phrase, not a rehearsed line offered to make someone feel temporarily better. It is a declaration of fact. The most powerful being in all of creation has chosen to be present in that specific room, with that specific person, on this specific day. The loneliness has been lying. The silence has been misread. And the truth, the real, unshakable truth is that not one single moment of that person's life has been witnessed by no one. Every moment has been seen. Every moment has been held. There is a particular kind of grief that never finds its way into conversation. The grief that hides behind a composed expression, behind "I'm fine," behind the practiced art of holding it together in public and only letting the seams show when no one is watching. There are tears that were never witnessed by another human being. Tears cried in parked cars, in shower stalls, in the middle of the night with a pillow pressed against the face to keep the sound from traveling. There are disappointments so deep that putting them into words felt like too much exposure, so they were swallowed, packed down, buried under the next task, and the next responsibility, and the next performance of normalcy. There were prayers that felt unanswered, moments of waiting that stretched so long the waiting itself began to feel like the answer, and the answer felt like rejection. There were times when it seemed like everyone else's life was moving forward while one particular life sat suspended, frozen, in a place that was supposed to be temporary but started to feel permanent. The Father saw all of it. He saw the tears before they fell. He saw the moment the grief arrived, and the moment the decision was made to carry it quietly rather than let it show. He saw the prayers that felt like they disappeared into silence. He was not absent in those moments. He was not distracted or delayed or occupied with something more important. He was there fully present, fully attentive, fully moved by what he witnessed. Every single tear was caught. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally catalogued, held, remembered by the one who created the eyes that produced them. Not one tear has been forgotten, he says. Not one prayer has gone unheard. Not one moment of your suffering has passed before me without being fully known. The grief was real. The pain was valid. And the one who holds all things held every bit of it not from a distance, but up close, with the kind of tenderness that human love only approximates on its very best days. The exhaustion of carrying it alone is over now, because it was never meant to be carried alone. Lay it down. The Father has been waiting to take it. There is a silence that terrifies, not the comfortable silence of rest, but the silence that descends when a person has prayed and heard nothing back, when they have knocked on the door of heaven until their knuckles hurt, and the door has remained, apparently, closed. That silence can feel like abandonment. It can feel like evidence, cold and hard, that the prayers were never reaching anyone, that the faith was misplaced, that the story ends without the miracle that was so desperately needed. But there is something the silence has never been able to communicate that words now can. God was never quiet. The appearance of stillness was always activity in disguise. In the seasons that felt most like absence, the most precise and careful work was happening behind the scenes work that required the kind of complexity and patience that human eyes are simply not equipped to track in real time. Think of what happens beneath the surface of soil in winter. To a person standing above looking at frozen, barren ground, nothing is happening. There is no visible growth, no movement, no evidence of life. But beneath the surface, root systems are deepening. Seeds are preparing to rupture. The entire infrastructure of spring is being built in the cold and the dark. The God who designed that process runs the same pattern in human lives. The season that looked like dormancy was a season of preparation. The closed doors were not failures. They were redirections, reroutes away from paths that would have led somewhere painful, toward paths that are being cleared right now, at this moment, in ways that will only become visible in the days and weeks ahead. Every door I closed was a door I closed for you, the Father says, not against you. The distinction matters enormously. There is a difference between a God who abandons and a God who protects by saying no. He has always been the second. When the answer was silence, the silence was doing something. When the prayer seemed to bounce back unanswered, it was being processed by a wisdom too vast to explain in a single human lifetime. The waiting was not wasted, not one day of it. The work continued in the silence, and it is still continuing now. The battle has been heavier than anyone around that person knows, heavier than the surface-level conversations have ever conveyed. There is a weight to this season that cannot be fully described to another human being, partly because the full scope of it involves too many layers, and partly because there is a protective instinct to shield others from the burden, to handle it privately, rather than become what feels like a problem for someone else. But the weight is real. The financial pressure, the numbers that don't add up at the end of the month, the calculations done and redone in the dark, the gap between what is needed and what is currently available, that pressure is real, and it is exhausting in a way that sleep cannot fully fix. The worry for the family, for the children, or the parents, or the spouse, or the people whose well-being feels directly tied to decisions that are uncertain. That worry runs deep, deep enough to wake a person at 3 in the morning and not let them go back to sleep. The losses, whether they came in the form of a relationship, a job, a dream, a person, or simply a version of life that was expected but did not arrive, those losses leave marks. And beneath all of it, the mental and emotional exhaustion of simply continuing to function when functioning feels like it requires everything available. The Father sees all of this, every layer, every calculation, every sleepless hour, every loss, every fear, and He does not look at it from a distance with detached compassion. He enters into it. He feels the weight of it because He has always felt what His children feel. "You have been fighting so bravely," He says, not with pity, but with the deep respect of one who has been watching the effort and knows exactly what it has cost. The courage required to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep choosing faith when the evidence for despair was plentiful. That courage has not gone unnoticed. It has been witnessed, it has been honored, and it will be rewarded. There are wounds that medicine cannot reach, not the wounds of the body, but the ones that live deeper in the places where the oldest memories are stored, where the earliest experiences of love, or the earliest experiences of its absence, shaped the way a person learned to navigate the world. There is a wound from betrayal, the specific ache of having trusted someone completely and having that trust broken, the aftermath of which is a permanent alertness, a difficulty in opening again, a part of the heart that learned to stay behind a wall because the last time it came out, it got hurt. There is a wound from abandonment, maybe from childhood, maybe from a relationship that ended in a way that confirmed the oldest fear, that people leave, that love is conditional, that staying is not something others do forever. There is the wound of rejection, of not being chosen, not being seen, not being valued in the ways that were most needed. These wounds do not announce themselves at dinner parties. They operate quietly, underneath the surface, informing decisions and reactions in ways that are not always conscious. They are the reason certain things still sting more than they should, the reason certain relationships still trigger a fear that the rational mind cannot fully explain. The Father knows each wound by name. He knows when it was received, how deep it went, and how it has shaped the life lived since. And He is not standing at a distance, offering general encouragement and hoping for the best. He is doing the specific, careful, tender work of healing, reaching into the exact places where the damage was done, and beginning to restore what was broken. "I am healing the parts of you that you gave up on," He says. "The parts that were decided were permanent. The parts that a person quietly accepted would just always be broken. The Father never accepted that. He has been working on those places since the wound was first received, and He is working on them still. The healing is real. It is happening. And the evidence of it will become visible in ways that will surprise and move deeply. Something is shifting. Even now, even before the circumstances have visibly changed, even before the answer has arrived, even before the next chapter has begun, something is moving in the invisible architecture of that person's life. There are doors that have been in the process of opening for weeks that are about to become visible. There are connections being arranged, conversations being aligned, opportunities being positioned, all of it happening in the space between what is currently seen and what is about to arrive. The Father is rerouting supply. He is rearranging timelines. He is speaking into situations that appear stuck and releasing what has been held back for a season that was not yet ready. The breakthrough that has been prayed for is not approaching from the direction that was expected, which is part of why it has been difficult to see coming. God rarely works in the direction the human mind anticipates. He comes from angles that require a different kind of watching, a different kind of readiness. But it is coming. The provision is coming. The restoration is coming. The clarity that has been missing is coming. The relationship that needs healing is being worked on from both sides. The opportunity that seems like it passed is being reconstructed in a form that is actually better than the original. What you asked for is moving toward you, the Father says. Not standing still, not delayed indefinitely, moving, and the distance between this person and the answer is shorter than it has ever been. The season of waiting is drawing to a close. What comes next will require courage to receive, because sometimes the answer arrives in a shape that takes a moment to recognize as the answer. But when it comes, there will be a knowing deep in the spirit that this is it, that this is the thing that was being built toward. Stay open, stay expectant. The movement has already begun. Fear is a skilled liar. It knows exactly which voice to use, which memories to invoke, which evidence to arrange in a compelling case for why hope is foolish and expectation is dangerous. It has studied the patterns, the times things went wrong, the times trust led to disappointment, the times the hope was real and the outcome was still painful, and it uses that history as a weapon. It whispers, "You've been disappointed before. You've believed before and been let down before. Who's to say this time is different? Who's to say you won't be standing in the same place a year from now, having waited for something that never came?" Fear is not honest. Fear is not an analyst presenting an objective report. Fear is a thief dressed in the clothing of wisdom, trying to steal a season of grace before it can be received. The enemy of faith does not want that person to stay. He does not want this message to land. He does not want the breakthrough to be recognized when it arrives, because if it is recognized and received with open hands, the story changes, and a changed story is exactly what he has been fighting to prevent. Do not let fear speak louder than my voice, the Father says with a clarity that cuts through every objection. Every closed door in the past was not evidence of a God who fails. It was evidence of a God who protects. Every delayed answer was not proof of divine indifference. It was proof of divine precision, of a timing so exact that arriving one day early or one day late would have meant missing the fullness of what was prepared. The faith that has survived this season, battered and uncertain as it sometimes felt, is exactly the kind of faith the Father honors. Not the faith that never doubts, but the faith that doubts and keeps showing up anyway. That kind of faith is powerful. That kind of faith moves things. Fear is not welcome here, not today, not in this season. The invitation is to let it go. The answer is closer than it looks. That is not a motivational phrase. That is a report from the one who can see the entire map, who knows where that person started, where they are right now, and where the destination is, and from that vantage point, the distance between the present moment and the arrival of what has been prayed and waited and hoped for is genuinely, measurably smaller than it has ever been. There is a tendency, in long seasons of waiting, for the mind to recalibrate its expectations, to quietly lower the ceiling of what seems possible, to negotiate faith downward, to begin accepting a smaller version of the dream because the full version has felt too far away for too long. The Father does not want that negotiation to happen. He does not want the ceiling lowered. He does not want the dream diminished. The thing he is building toward is not a consolation prize. It is not the watered-down version. It is the full thing, the thing that was whispered into that person's heart before the obstacles arrived, the thing that felt too large to believe in after the disappointments came, but which was never canceled, never revoked, never given to someone else. It is still being prepared. It was always being prepared. The reason it has taken as long as it has is not because the Father forgot or changed his mind. It is because what he is building requires a foundation strong enough to hold it. And the foundation, the character, the faith, the depth of trust that has been forged through this very season of waiting is almost complete. What is about to be placed on that foundation will not fall. It is not an accident that this specific message found that specific person today. Today is not a random day in the story. It is a turning point. The kind that is only visible in retrospect, but which, once seen from the other side, makes everything make sense. You are not lost, the Father says. You are right on time. Before the last word of this message is received, there is one thing left to be said, the most important thing, the thing that all of the other words have been building toward, the promise that stands beneath every promise that has come before it. The Father will not abandon this child. Not when the night gets darker, not when the silence stretches longer, not when the doubt rises louder than the faith, not when the evidence for despair is piled higher than the evidence for hope. Not ever. There has never been a version of this story in which the father walks away from his child. There will never be a version of this story in which that happens. The love that has held this person through every hard season is not conditional on performance. It is not revocable based on failure. It is not weakened by the number of times a mistake has been made, or a prayer has been prayed imperfectly, or faith has wavered. It is constant, absolute, unshakable. The same yesterday as it is today, as it will be tomorrow, and every day after that, without end. The path ahead is not empty. The Father goes before, and the Father remains behind. He is the front of the journey and the rear of the journey. He is in every moment between where this person stands today and where they are going, in every conversation that will happen, every door that will open, every morning that will arrive after a night that felt like it would not end. The peace he offers is not the peace of a life without difficulty. It is the peace of a life that is never, not for one single breath, outside of his reach. Whatever has been lost in this season, it is being restored. Whatever has been broken, it is being mended. Whatever has been delayed, it is being released. Whatever has felt impossible, it is being made possible by the one for whom nothing is impossible, the one who parted seas and leveled mountains and raised what was dead and called what was not yet into being. That same God has not become less powerful in this season. He has not become less interested in this specific life. He is here. He has always been here. And the declaration that closes this message is not a farewell. It is a reminder, a truth to be carried forward into every day that follows, into every hard morning and every sleepless night, and every moment when the fear begins its familiar whisper. Write it on the wall of the heart. Speak it out loud when everything else goes quiet. Let it be the thing that remains when everything else falls away. My child, I am closer than you think. I have never left you. I never will. If this message has spoken directly to the season you are walking through, if something in these words has landed in a place you did not expect, or confirmed something your spirit already knew but needed to hear spoken clearly, then carry this truth forward. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not outside the reach of grace. The God who stopped you here today is the same God who will be with you every step of what comes next. If there is someone in your life who is carrying something heavy, someone who has been quiet lately, someone who seems to be losing ground, someone who needs to be reminded that they are not alone, pass this message to them. Not because it is content to be shared, but because it is a word that belongs to more than one heart. The Father's love is not rationed. It does not run out when it is given to one person and leave less for the next. Give it freely, because it was given to you freely. And as you go with confidence, not because the road ahead is without difficulty, but because you do not walk it alone. The one who placed you here is the one who goes ahead of you. That has always been true. It is still true now. It will always be true.